I will start class within 2 minutes. Still only 28 participants. I will wait for 1 more minute. Okay, let me now start the class. In the previous class, we were discussing about the carbon dioxide laser. Wait. Okay, carbon dioxide laser works on the principle that the N2 molecule, which is actually mixed with carbon dioxide molecule, provides metastable state. Okay, that is the understanding. The nitrogen molecule will produce the will give the vibrational level, which is actually a metastable state, which stays longer than the excited state of the carbon dioxide molecule. Okay, and the first excited state of this nitrogen molecule coincides with the asymmetric stretch vibration state of CO2 molecule. Okay, I have explained about the different types of vibrations of carbon dioxide molecule, in which asymmetric stretch vibration of carbon dioxide molecule matches with the first excited state of the nitrogen molecule. Thus, this excited nitrogen molecule transfers energy to the carbon dioxide molecule, and more carbon dioxide molecules will be get excited to the higher energy level, and thus we achieve population inversion. Okay, and this is the principle behind carbon dioxide laser. And you have to write this diagram. Here you can see the carbon dioxide molecule is actually filled in this discharge tube. Okay, and this these electrodes will supply the necessity pumping energy to the carbon dioxide molecule. I hope you understand. These electrodes, that is cathode and anode, actually when kept at high potential, electrons from the cathode move towards the anode. While moving towards the anode, these electrons will hit the nitrogen molecule as well as carbon dioxide molecule, and ground state nitrogen as well as carbon dioxide molecule will get excited to the first excited level. Okay, and thus we achieve the population inversion. And also I have said one mirror is fully silvered, okay, which will only produce reflected light, and the other mirror is partially silvered. Actually, this mirror is 1% transparent. Okay, and we get a polarized beam as output. Okay, that is because we have set this mirror at Brewster angle. Okay, we have provided Brewster windows, and in the last class I have explained Brewster window is a arrangement which makes these reflected lasers fall on the surface of the mirror at Brewster angle. Okay, any light ray which falls on the mirror at booster angle will get polarized. Okay, that is the use of this Brewster window. This will actually allow the light to hit the mirror at booster angle. Okay, and usually carbon dioxide laser consists of hydrogen and oxygen and carbon dioxide and nitrogen molecule. Other than that, helium gas is also filled in the ratio of 1:2:3. This helium gases will help the carbon monoxide which is present in the mixture to get reoxidized to carbon dioxide. Okay, or simply this helium gases will, or this hydrogen or water molecules which are added to this mixture will help the carbon monoxide to get converted into carbon dioxide. Okay, and the pressure inside the tube is very high, 6 to 17 tar. Okay, tar is the usual unit of measuring the pressure, and electrical pumping or electrodes are connected to AC or DC voltages. Okay, this is the actual construction of this carbon dioxide laser. And again, you know that there are two plane mirrors fixed at the ends of the tube. Okay, and one is 100% reflecting and another one is 99% reflecting and 1% transparent. Okay, if we go towards the working of the carbon dioxide laser, we have to understand when we insert the electrodes and supply very high potential, the electrons are liberated from the cathode of the applied potential, and these electrons having higher energy collide with nitrogen molecules which are at ground level. Okay, V0 level represents ground level of the nitrogen molecule, and hence these electrons will slow down and nitrogen becomes excited. Okay, nitrogen star, N2 star represents excited nitrogen, or it is the nitrogen at V is equal to 1 level. Okay, this is the equation which summarize the many things. Okay, electrons from these electrodes, let me show you. Suppose if this is a cathode, electrons will move from cathode towards the anode. While moving towards anode, they will hit the nitrogen molecule and nitrogen molecule will get excited. Okay, and in this diagram you can see here, this nitrogen molecule now goes to the excited state V1, vibrational excitation level. Okay, now this metastable state or V1 state of nitrogen matches with the asymmetric stretching energy of the carbon dioxide molecule. Therefore, these nitrogen molecules which are moving with energy V is equal to 1 hit the ground state carbon dioxide molecule, and these nitrogen molecules come down to the ground state, and this carbon dioxide molecule now will be get excited to energy level E5, which is the asymmetric stretch energy level. Okay, and this asymmetric stretch energy level of carbon dioxide is very unstable, and the atoms present in, or carbon dioxide molecules present in E5 level will go down to the E4 level. Okay, with emitting a laser of 10.6 micrometer, which is in the IR region. Okay, this energy level E4 will corresponds to symmetric stretch energy of the carbon dioxide molecule. Okay, and simultaneously few of the carbon dioxide molecules will get de-excited to E3 energy level. This E3 energy level corresponds to bending energy or bending mode of carbon dioxide molecule. Okay, and this will emit, the carbon dioxide molecule coming from E5 and falling at E3 will emit 9.6 micrometer IR radiation. Therefore, we are going to get two different wavelengths using carbon dioxide laser, both in IR region. Okay, and after that, the atoms present in E3 and E4 will fall to E2 level without emitting any photon. Okay, and from E2 they will come back to the ground state. Okay, and this is a continuous process. The nitrogen molecules which has gone to excited level will actually come back to the ground state by converting its energy, by giving its energy to carbon dioxide molecule. Carbon dioxide molecule gives two different wavelength lasers and comes back to the ground state. And again, it will be collided with the excited nitrogen molecule. And this is a chain kind of reaction. Okay. This reaction will not stop. A continuous laser pulses will be obtained. Okay. This is the mechanism. You have to write this energy level diagram. You have to remember 5 energy levels of carbon dioxide molecule: E1 as ground state, E2 as excited state in bending mode, E3 as excited state in the bending mode again, E4 as excited state in the symmetric stretch energy level, and E5 as the energy level in the asymmetric stretch energy. Okay. And this is the total mechanism. Let me show you the PPT of this. Okay. That may help you to understand the concept in a better manner. Okay, let me try this one. Are you able to see this one? Please raise your hand if you are able to see this. Are you able to see this? Okay, Chinmay raised hand. Okay, let me play this animation. Here you can see N2 is in the ground state, and the electrodes which are connected in the tube releases, our cathode releases the electron, and that electron, as soon as hits this nitrogen molecule, this nitrogen molecule will gain the energy and go to the excited state. Simultaneously, few carbon dioxide molecules also may hit with the electron, and they also go to the excited state. Okay. And now these excited nitrogen molecules collide with the carbon dioxide molecules. You can see they will collide with the carbon dioxide molecule, and hence few of the carbon dioxide molecules again get excited to the asymmetric stretch energy level E5. Okay. Now you can see there are more number of carbon dioxide molecules are getting excited to the getting excited to the higher energy level. Now these carbon dioxide molecules in the E5 level will not stay longer there, and this carbon dioxide molecule will go to the lower energy state, that is E3 state, with emitting one radiation, 9.6 micrometer radiation. And similarly, another carbon dioxide molecule may go to E4 level, leaving 10.6 micrometer IR laser. Okay. And again, the unexcited carbon dioxide molecule will be excited, and that will go to E3 level. In this way, this is a chain reaction which is going to happen again and again. Okay. Again, carbon molecules will go to the excited state. They will emit radiations. Okay. Laser will be continuously generated. Okay. This is the actual mechanism of carbon dioxide molecule. This question will be asked. You can again see this using a equation. N2 star, that is excited nitrogen molecule, hits with the ground state carbon dioxide molecule, and N2 star will become N2, that is ground nitrogen molecule, and the CO2 which is in the ground state will now become CO2 star, that is excited carbon dioxide molecule. Okay, that's it. And finally you will get two radiations in infrared region, one with 10.6 micrometer and another one is 9.6 micrometer in the far infrared region. Okay, this is all about carbon dioxide laser. Okay, this question will be asked for 7 to 8 marks in the examination. Please read the principle, construction and working carefully and repeat it. Okay, this will be there in the second interval. Please don't neglect it. Okay, now I will start the final part of laser, that is construction and working of semiconductor laser. Okay, I hope you all know what is the meaning of semiconductor. Semiconductors are the materials which having conductivity between conductors and insulators, right? Now, okay. You can see we have two types of semiconductors, actually two types of extrinsic semiconductors. That is that is p-type and n-type semiconductors, right? P-type semiconductor contains holes as majority carrier and n-type semiconductor contains electrons as majority carrier. Okay, when we connect these two, we will get a p-n junction. Okay, when we connect p-type semiconductor with n-type semiconductor, we get a p-n junction region, and the electrons from n region now starts to move into the p region, and holes in the p region now starts to move into the n region, and these electron and hole recombine. Okay, while doing that, they will emit radiation. Okay, the laser will be emitted when electron in the n-type region recombines with the hole in the p-type material. Okay, electron just diffuse into the p region. Okay, this is the basis of semiconductor laser. Okay, in semiconductor laser, I repeat once again, we have p-type and n-type semiconductors fused together. N-type semiconductor contains electrons and p-type semiconductor contains holes. The electrons from the n-type semiconductor, when kept in contact with p-type, starts to move into the p-type material, and they will combine with the hole, and they are now, once they combine with the hole, they will emit radiation. This is the principle behind the semiconducting laser. Okay, and that is shown in the diagram also. You can see we have connected p-n junction in forward bias. Okay, when we supply, I hope you know what is the meaning of forward bias. P positive terminal of the battery is now connected to the p region, negative terminal of the battery is connected to the n region. Okay, and these holes in the p region get attracted by this negative electrode, and they will move into the n region. Similarly, the electrons in the n region get attracted by the positive terminal, and they enter into the p region. Here you can see these two are getting recombined. Holes and electrons are getting combined, and thus once they combine, we get the radiation. The same thing is actually represented using this energy level diagram. Okay, I hope you all remember the energy level diagram for p-type material. Okay, for intrinsic semiconductor, which we have learned in the classroom, the Fermi level will be exactly at the center of the energy gap between conduction level and conduction band and valence band, right? But in p-type semiconductor, this Fermi level will be very close to the valence band. You can see this dotted line represents the Fermi level. In p region or p-type material, this Fermi level is very near to the valence band. Similarly, in the n-type material, the Fermi level is very near to the conduction band. Okay, let me repeat once again. In intrinsic semiconductor, Fermi level lays at the center of the band gap, but in p-type semiconductor, Fermi level lies near to the valence band, and in n-type semiconductor, Fermi level lies very near to the conduction band. This thing you have to remember. Okay, I have not discussed about it because there is no scope for extrinsic semiconductor in engineering physics syllabus, but here, to understand semiconductor laser, we have to assume that we know this thing. Okay, now you can see when I fuse this p-type and n-type semiconductor, then these energy levels will look like this. You can see p-type semiconductor will have higher higher energy at the conduction band than compared to the energy in the n-type material. The conduction band in the n-type material is lower than the conduction band in the p-type material. This you have to understand. And also the valence band in the p-type region is higher than the valence band in the n-type material. Okay, now when we fuse p and n region, I hope you know that electrons are highly populated in the n region. The electrons are very much present in the conduction band in the n-type material, whereas there are no electrons even in the valence band of p-type material. That is, in p-type material, valence band is filled with positive holes. Therefore, there is a population inversion already achieved here. The number of electrons in the higher state, that is the conduction band, is more than the number of electrons in the lower energy state. Okay, therefore this is known as population inversion. Okay, now these electrons starts to recombine with the holes, and when it happens, the light will be emitted. Okay, this is the working nature of semiconducting laser. Okay, let me explain the construction of it. This semiconducting laser is a very thin material. It is of the order of 1 mm. Okay, a semiconducting layer, you can see p-type material. I mean, let me show some other pictures. Okay, you can see this semiconducting material has the area or width varying from 1 micrometer to 100 micrometer. That is, this region is of thickness 1 mm to 100 mm, 100 micrometer, sorry, 1 micron to 100 micron, very thin region. Whereas this top surface of PN region is of the order of 1 mm. Okay, and these p-type and n-type materials are heavily doped with dopants of the order of 10 power 17 to 10 power minus 10 power 17 to 10 power 19 atoms, dopant atoms per centimeter cube. That huge doping has been done in p-type and n-type material. Okay, and these two surfaces, let me show. Wait. These two surfaces, these edges are cleaved, are well polished, and they act as reflecting surfaces, these two sides. Okay, and there is a passage made for light to come out here, from where the laser beam will come out. Okay, this is the recombination, I mean, this is the junction region. Okay, the light will be formed in the junction region, and both sides, both edges are well polished. One doesn't contain any opening, but on the other side we have a slight opening from which laser beam will come out. Okay, and the entire PN junction is kept at forward bias. Okay, this is the construction part of the PN junction diode. Okay, it is very similar to your LED, light emitting diode. Okay, and this p-type and n-type materials are made up of gallium arsenide material. Okay, n section is made by heavily doped tellurium atom, and p-type material is made with heavily doped zinc. Okay, that's it. This is the construction part, and the working part is like this. Again, already I have explained. In p-type material, the conduction band is slightly higher than the conduction band in the n-type material, and this is the junction region. Okay, and Fermi level in conduction band is actually overlaps. I mean, in n-type material, Fermi level lays in the conduction band, are very near to the conduction band. You can see EFN represents Fermi level in n-type section, whereas in the p section, Fermi level lies very near to the valence band. Okay, therefore electrons are highly populated in conduction band of n section, whereas there is no electron in the even in the valence band of the p-type material. This is a highly populated hole region. Holes are heavily populated here. That is, deficiency of electron is there. Therefore, these electrons will directly come to the valence band of the p region, and hence recombination takes place and laser will be emitted. Okay, that's it. This is the working of PN junction diode. Okay, I have already shared the notes, and you can just go through it. The expression for wavelength is very simple. Wavelength is equal to SC by E. I hope you remember E is equal to SC by lambda, or lambda is equal to SC by C. And if we use gallium arsenide, which has the energy gap of the order of 1.4 electron volt, you will get lambda is equal to 8400 angstrom. Okay, infrared region near to the visible red region. Okay, therefore red lasers are very common, right? You might have seen red lasers in the key bunches also. They are all semiconducting lasers. And I have already said the dimension of these semiconducting lasers is very small. Therefore, it can be used in key bunches also. Okay, that's it. I will stop here. And I have also listed out few of the applications. One is lasers. Lasers are used in medicinal applications, and they are also used in material processing purposes. For removal of impurities, we can use laser. And lasers are also used as energy resources. For 3D photography, lasers are used, and in defense also used. I will explain two of the applications of laser, that is pathfinder, okay, in defense, as well as skin treatment using laser and eye treatment using laser in the next class. Now, thank you very much for attending this class. I'm going to end the class right now. Okay. Thank you. If you have not understood, please tell me. I will repeat this class, and I am also going to post this in the YouTube. Okay, this video in the YouTube. Thank you very much.